So this session that we're going to do here today, I am asking that everybody participate. So like she mentioned around the Q&A box, definitely if you have questions, use that section and click on that. Otherwise, as I ask questions and I throw them out to you, I'm asking for you to respond on the chat box. So it's an open panel there. And so as we go along here, we'll be able to do the session together. So obviously webinars are not the most ideal. If we could all be in the same room, that would be, but I'm assuming that all of you do a ton of webinar, tons of phone calls, because many times I find in workspaces we're working remotely as well. So let's get this kicked off here. So definitely also one other rule here. I know that everybody just probably ate lunch recently, so no food crashes here today. Let's get rolling. So as far as today, we're going to get into many things, but I want to kick it off just talking about some common themes around time management. So I don't know about you guys, but quite often when you've got your plan and you're looking at your calendar and you got everything set to go, and it's like, here's what I'm going to go do in my business or in my role. Many times the reality is so different. And so the options that you have are, do I go through these peaks and valleys? Do I stop? Do I quit? Do I go? But the reality is we all wish that the plan played out exactly how it is. And it feels like time management is the same game as it is when you business plan out anything over time and then try to schedule it out as well. So, you know, as we talk today, there's going to be a lot of things that come up that have to do with planning and then time management as another issue behind it. So I just wanted to shoot a question out to you guys just to see who's sleeping yet or actually participating. Click the chat box and tell me, what is the most common issue that gets in the way of your plan when it comes to planning or time management? Oh boy, there's a lot of good ones coming in here. I don't know how many of you can relate on these, but unexpected calls, interruptions from people, email, unexpected fires. Those are not the fun ones. Social media. Donna, you just set me up on a silver platter. That one's going to come up for sure today. Losing focus. I would love to say that I don't ever lose focus, but it definitely happens. For sure. I'm sure it happens to all of us. Yeah, Clay, that's one that happens where you plan something out and then the time actually goes longer than you expected, right? That can happen every day and sometimes every meeting throughout the day. So it's just a battle against time to keep things on time. Beautiful. All right. That's awesome. Great to see you guys participating here. I appreciate it. A lot of these are very common realities that hit us as we plan and get our schedules going, and then things get in the way. So when you look at these peaks and valleys here, yes, we're going to definitely talk about them because what you just shared is definitely a common theme. So let's talk about, I told you, Donna, it was going to come up, social media. So, you know, it's hard enough to stay on pace with everything we've got going on in our worlds, whether you own the business or you work within the business. But geez, what happened? Why the heck did somebody come up with social media? Whether it be Facebook or LinkedIn or, you know, YouTube, it's just like we've got everything in the world that can distract us on top of what it used to be. And so emails are the common thing as well, but you look at this little bubble on the far right. I don't know about you guys, but the Apple iPhone just did a great job of telling me that somebody's typing something back to me, so I should probably not do what I was going to do and just wait and see what they respond with. I mean, what an incredible distraction. Just keeps us glued to our phone. Either way, the reality is that sometimes you almost feel like going back in time to before this stuff happened. As much as it's great to have technology because it helps us be more productive, it really helps us be unproductive at the same time. So it's almost a wash, right? So I'm curious, who here is guilty, beyond Donna here, of social media? It gets in the way. It can be Facebook, it can be LinkedIn work, it can be YouTube, or just the text messages that come in throughout the day. So raise a hand just by saying yes on the chat box here. Who here has been victim of the distractions of social media? Oh yeah. Perfect. Yes, some brave souls admitting to the reality of what a lot of us deal with. That's why they started to come out with these apps, right? That we can almost download them because we want to block them out. So it's one of these things that we just have to be conscious of, because we are now in a world of, if you're going to be great at time management, distraction management is actually a big part of it. With that, I really want to know, how to be more efficient with my time. So I went online and I Googled it. And here's what it said on Google. To solve this problem, please follow these steps. Stop going on Google. Number 2, continue to stop going on Google. Number 3, punch yourself if you continue to go on Google. The reality is like Google, this awesome engine for us to help us out a lot of times in our work, it can be another number 1 distraction in our lives. So whether you didn't say yes to Facebook and all those other things as a distraction or not, I'm assuming that because Google plays a part a lot as research in our roles, that this is one of those things that you need to almost stop and pay attention to the rule of Google and actually maybe stop going on Google and have some rules and boundaries around it. But I want to talk about one last thing here around the battery power. So who here, and again, I'm asking the chat here, who here, when they see this screen, immediately goes to plug in their phone, and then who here goes, it's all right, I'll be good? Plug in, plug in, plug in. Yeah, we all recognize this symbol. It's almost like an emergency. It's urgent. You're about to run out of battery power. Then you're going to lose all your Facebook, YouTube, and all those good things, right? For sure. Well, me, I used to always go, you know what? I got time. I've got 20% more time, right? I'll be fine. I don't need to plug it in. So I ignore it, right? What about low battery 10%? How do you feel when you see this, when it actually gets to this point? I think all that's happening here is more exclamation marks on the plug-in. Michael, good answer. Low power mode. I am a big fan of that. Yes. Kim is panicking. Sabrina's trying to find a charger immediately, and Cassie's got an emergency on her hands. It's just the reality. But you know what? I still got time. Not a big deal. No worries. And then this is what happened. I suck. The reality is I lose battery power and I can't move on, right? So I don't know about you guys, but in your roles, sometimes we do procrastinate. We think we've got time, and then next thing we know, we really pay for it. And so I know that these are the common symbols we see on our phone every day because we're all stuck in our phones many times. But when you think about what we do to ourselves, this is what we feel when we actually just run to zero because we actually procrastinated too far and did not grab the charger. So a lot of times we have that feeling to plug in, but sometimes we don't. The whole goal here is to make sure that we're operating at 100%. So today is a lot about some very quick tips of time management rules and things you can do, things around email. And what I'll tell you is there's no rocket science here. Absolutely not. I bet you everybody on this call has heard most of this, but what you're really looking for is maybe 1 or 2 things that can make a difference moving forward. Speaking of procrastination, did you know that tomorrow, the definition is a mystical land where 99% of all human productivity, motivation, and achievements is stored? Yes, that's how I feel when I do that. And I say tomorrow. It's just a terrible thing. So hopefully by the end of today, you can grab a couple tidbits where tomorrow is less used in your vocabulary and you're able to get things done today. So we're not going to go for perfection, but I am curious, what would it mean for you if you just changed, and got better by 5% per week or per day in managing your time? If you got back 5% of your every day, what does that look like over the course of the year? Lots of money, lots of time. Time well spent, yes. Maybe a new account. Here's the reality. When you calculate it out and you go, gosh, can I improve my days? And if I get really focused and use like the little things that'll make my days even more and more effective, the way I manage myself, plan, and do time management, can I do 5%? If it was a yes, the reality is 5% of a typical day, I'm assuming that many of you on this call, not all of you, are working probably close to 10-hour days, 50-hour weeks, right? And if you're not, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking directly to your hours. You might be working either less, or some of you are shaking your heads going, no, a hell of a lot more. So 5% of anything is a lot. So if you do 5% of a 10-hour day, we're talking about a half hour, right? Times a week on 5 business days, we're talking about 2.5 hours. If you keep expanding it out, it eventually gets to where you're looking at this going, gosh, I could have a vacation over the course of the year just by being more effective with my time. So really the aim here today, again, is just to grab, if there's one nugget today that you go, that's the one, I'm glad I paid attention to all the stuff I already knew, but there's the one that I wanted, the 5% will make the change moving forward to hopefully earn yourself some more time on the back end of every single year. So let's talk about emails. What issues do you guys have typically around emails?
And Dan, I'm also going to launch a poll here to see how much time people initially think they spend on emails too.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Yes. So the first answer on emails, what issues? Too many. I think many people stop even responding at that point because they're like, yeah, me too. It is a common way of communicating these days, right? So it's not too many phone calls these days. It's many times too many emails. And then I'm seeing this often, right? Who can relate to Albert here as far as just requests come in and it's like, oh, want it to be done right away, and it distracts you from what's going on in your world. Maybe you're working on something important and it just can't get done because now you want to work on this next thing. Here's our poll here. It looks like over half the group here is in the 1 to 2 hours, if not 3 to 4 hours of emails per day. It's pretty amazing how our lives on a day-to-day basis have gotten to the point where we spend almost 20% of our workday sitting here on a screen typing back and forth. The world has just changed so much, and it's just surprising to see these stats, but that's just the reality, and I'm sure you all knew that because we all feel it ourselves, right? I'm seeing a lot of responses here. Yeah. Oh, Donna, you shared a good one. I try to take action after reading, delete, defer, or assign, right? And so I think there's that urgency and excitement of like, oh, I want to take care of that now, which we talked about earlier. The problem is then like, great, I got that done. I can check it off my list, but what was I doing again? And so again, it's just that common theme of distraction. So email is a great communication if you work it right and use the tools correctly, but many times if you don't take control, it just becomes the distraction hotline for you. All right, so I'm curious. I feel like there are 2 types of people in this world. So when you open up your phone here and you look at how many emails are in the indicator, are you the one on the left with a 0 box, or are you the one on the right that you got many emails built up? We got a 0. We got left. All right, another 0. 0. Built up. Built up. So somebody actually allows the right email box with all the buildup to happen on the personal, but not on the work email, zeroed out. Okay, interesting. The goal is on the left. Kim, I appreciate your honesty, right? A lot of times we say 0, but if you open up your email when you wake up, or I should say before you go to bed at night, is it truly zeroed out every single night? Sometimes we hang around in a world where there's still some emails to filter through. Perfect. You know what? We got about a 50-50 here, right? So a lot of us, it seems like we have the goal to be zeroed, but the right time does happen some. I just facilitated a session up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, nice snowy and cold there. And one of the ladies pulled out her phone and she had over 15,000 emails on the bubble for her email. And she shared it with the group, and then she was super embarrassed, but we all got some laughs out of it. And it's just the reality. The reality for her, though, too, is she's kicking ass in her business. She's making great money. It's just her email management is one of those things she's trying to gain control of. So whether you're the one on the left or you're the one on the right, don't think that you're wrong or right here. Really what we're going to talk about is how you can manage and give you some tools. But I would tell you, if you can get to the zero management, it's a beautiful world to be in because you'll sleep better at night. So let's move forward here. So I'm curious, what rules do you follow when managing and checking your emails? I saw some folks share them a little bit earlier on the chat here. If you could share again, like what are the rules that you follow when managing and checking your email box besides doing a zero box? Yeah, so Erin's sharing that she does every hour do an email check and filter through that. Donna does a morning, a midday, and a PM, so there's 3 time slots. Albert, you only keep emails that have existing tasks still to do. Kind of relates to Kim. You leave all the non-urgents for later to do. File them all by client so that you're organized as far as anything that pertains to a client, go to the specific client, drop them in those folders. Yes. Okay. So filters too. Yes. Michael, you're sharing about basically like newsletters or things that are common things you come in a lot, but setting up email rules so you can control them actually being part of your inbox or just going directly into a folder. Aaron's rule is just try to answer them right away. So if you actually like read through all these comments and chats, it's amazing. Everybody's got their own rules and they all organize it differently. Nobody gave us a guidebook and said, here's the exact process of managing your emails, right? So it's really interesting. Michael Boomerang, yes, I've seen that one. That'll come up again here later too. So what's cool is there are many different tools and there's many different articles and content around how to tackle your emails to be more productive with your time and stay more organized. At the end of the day, it's how to be more productive, more efficient, but also sometimes it's also just about having your head clear too, so you can be the best at what you're doing, right? So we're going to go through quite a few things here. So email basics, right? No rocket science here, but as far as our process here of how to manage email, we stick to the 2-minute rule. Okay, so when you go through your email box and you are going through one by one, if it takes more than 2 minutes, that is a task that needs to get scheduled, right? So if it's under 2 minutes, you move to do it, right? You just get it over with because it's going to be less than 2 minutes and then get the email off of your inbox. Again, if it's going to be more than 2 minutes, you move it into scheduling mode, you open up your calendar and you plug in where you're going to do that. So, and then what you do is you delete that email. The point is you're actually removing it. Email is a communication tool, right? It's not a task list. So I've seen many different ways, and I've bounced before from my email being a task list to actually just scheduling it and keeping the zero box. And I will tell you, it is a lot better as far as managing your time, but you just have to really be on top of your schedule and really believe in your schedule because it has everything in it for you to follow through on. So you schedule it out. And then the next thing is storage, right? Sometimes you have things that's just more content or to learning, or it's just something that you can come back to and there's no urgency behind it. And you can just throw it into storage. Maybe it's just something you want to keep. You read it, you've got what you need out of it, and now it's just time to store it and get it out of here. So either A, you trash it and you delete it because you really don't need to ever see it again, or B, you store it. So the hard part is to actually create the different categories for storage. Who here has about 500 folders on the left side of their screen when they look at their email box? And I know I exaggerate by saying 500, but I'm sure there's a few people. Oh, it's nice to see that. Not 500, but many, right? Yep. A lot, yes. It's amazing. You start out with like, I'm going to start with these categories. Next thing you know, you're just creating all of these folders, more subfolders, and it just keeps building upon and building upon. I'll just share with you just really quickly on storage, and I'm going to move forward here. But if you're looking for like a quick system to kind of start over on, have these 5 to 6 main categories here. So the first one is any communication internal, right? It's with fellow employees, peers, boss, whatever it may be. Have an internal folder that then you can build your subfolders of names of people below that, if you like to hold on to communications to specific people. Have a client folder so that underneath that, you can then create all the subfolders beneath that to go to specific clients. Have a sales and marketing folder that will then have subfolders below it where it could be like leads and prospects, however you like to define that. But at least you now have a folder system specific to sales and marketing and filtering. If you own the business and you're running it, financials play a big part. I'm assuming there's a lot of things going on that includes expensing, travel, all sorts of stuff. Have a financial folder, right? And then the last one is have a learning and content folder. It's one of those things where it's, I don't need to read this now. There's no urgency at all, but if I want to come back to it and there's some learning or content, I drop it into that folder. Now, I know these folders don't apply to everybody, but if you're looking to have some simple folders before you create those subs, and when then you close out or you unlock the subfolders, you now have 5 clean folders there before you start to get into the subs. So whatever your system is, I encourage you to go back and go, what do I need? What don't I need? And start to simplify your folders. Because eventually you'll create this maze or this system that you're never going to go back and look at it again anyways. Because I don't know about you, but I actually end up just using the search tool anyways. So don't overcomplicate your storage folders. How much time do you need? So this is a question, how much time you need for emailing day to day. I saw you on the polls as far as what you shared. So when you assume that 50% of the emails need to take action, which is about 2 minutes, and 50% is schedule, store, or delete, which is about 1 minute, this is what the average would look like. So if you're getting 10 emails per day, you probably only have about 15 minutes of work to do for emails on a day-to-day basis. When you start to work down towards, I get about 60 emails a day, that's 90 minutes a day. We're talking an hour and a half. And I saw a lot of people fall in that spot or the 80 emails where it's about 2 hours. And then the last is 100 emails. You know, you're getting into the 2.5 hours. And I did see there was quite a few folks that had 3 to 4 hours, right? So just the reality is think about where are you at on emails. So I guess let me turn the question, rather than answering how much time you spend on emails, let me ask you, how many emails do you get per day? If you were to go, I think I get about this many emails on average per day. Wow, Wolf, you get a lot of emails. Welcome to the email team here. 200 to 300, great. You must be taking care of a lot. Danielle, 1,000. Ah, I see. She just threw an awesome tool out there. Don't click that link yet. I'll talk about it. Unroll.me. I see a common theme of right around 40 to 60 emails, and then there's the outliers that have like massive amounts of emails. Just really depends, right? So take a look at whatever you wrote down or did not write down here, however many emails you think you're getting, and look at the time that it should be taking, okay? So if you said you're 40 emails per day and you're spending more than an hour, it means your system is taking too long. So really go back and think about the 2-minute rule. how are you managing your time on scheduling things, storing them, so that you're not getting stuck during your email time. So when I talk about 1 hour with 40 emails, I'm saying that you're not doing tasks that are over 2 minutes, that you're always scheduling outside of it. Oh, Stan, 20 emails. We all want your email box right now. That sounds great. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you sharing that. So, Donna, thank you for the segue here. Unroll.me. So there's so many different technologies you can leverage and things you can do within your email to make your life easier. So what I just talked about before is probably the most important piece as far as the managing side and your decision making. These next things are just little leverage tools that will definitely help you out. So if you are used to getting a lot of spam in your email, or just a lot of things that you're somehow, your Boston store or TJ Maxx is sending you stuff all the time. I don't know who it is, but somehow somebody put your email address, or they captured it, some robot grabbed it out of the sky here, and you are now getting all these emails. I don't know about you, you get like 100 emails sometimes, and you don't even know how you got registered for them. Unroll.me is beautiful. You log onto there, you put your email address in there, and then it's going to bring up all basically your common theme emails, and you can go through and unenroll for a lot of different things, and it'll just automatically manage it all for you, so that you don't have to go through email to unsubscribe. It just takes care of it for you, and it makes it really, really simple. So I strongly recommend, I strongly recommend Unroll.me. Boomerang is great. There's many different ways you can use it, but at the end of the day, many people, sometimes they go, gosh, I cannot even think about this thing, and I know I need to make sure I don't forget this email, so you can click buttons and it'll boomerang and come back to you in a certain time period that you can set. So if you find yourself having every once in a while those messages that you need it to come back to you, so it's not just lost in this box of craziness, Boomerang is a great tool. NNTR, that's really a way of signing off that is becoming common with email now. It's just an acronym for no need to reply, so that when you send a message or you get a message from somebody that says at the end NNTR, it's just really, there's no need to respond and spend any of your time emailing me back, but I just want to make sure you got this communication. So you can actually just add that to the office if you want. And then there's other things like rules that you can apply around messages, so that specific messages go into folders so that they're automatically there. So whether you've got Outlook or Google, just go to managing rules, and then you can create all these different rules that if this message has this subject or it has this person, it always goes into this folder. And that way you can start to really filter out your box and manage it automatically. And then the last piece is you can create specific messages that are already built out. They're canned responses on Google. I think canned responses are great. So if you deal with the sales process of managing people through from a lead to a client, and you find that you always send a lot of times the same follow-up, right? And you have a common theme throughout your email communication, canned responses, setting this up and putting those templates in there is awesome, because you can just grab them, hit them, and then just quickly personalize and hit send. So that way you're not digging through, and I don't know if you guys can relate, you dig through your email box trying to find that last one to use it as a template. Stop doing that, start creating canned responses, so you've got your top tools of messaging for the future. And then here's another option. You could actually just skip all these tools, and sometimes you just go, gosh, picking up the phone is the smartest thing to do. So make sure you recognize when is it going to be faster, more efficient, more productive with your time to just pick up the phone and avoid the email. I find that probably about 25% of the time with what we do, I will pick up the phone and really actually just have the interaction, because we'll get through it way faster than if we have the continued back and forth on email. So respect yourself, respect them, respect your time, and just recognize when a phone call will move the needle faster for both of you. Communication management. So this is just an overall almost office rule, right? So are you communicating and creating rules amongst your team, internally and externally with your clients? So know your rules around each of the communications. When should people email me? When should people know to text me? When should people call me? And when should we have an in-person meeting? It's a really, really important piece. You should ask yourself that question for internally with fellow employees. And then you should ask yourself externally to your clients, when should they email me? When should they text me? When should they phone? And when should it be in person? Really know what the answer is to that. And then the next most important thing is communicate that. So for us at Cultivate, our team really knows like when they need to email each other, when should they text, phone, and in person. So we've got different rules in our office around anything that's just common chat. We use WhatsApp. Anything that is an emergency is a phone or text. And then email is just the most common use of communication internally. Externally looks different, but I just wanted to share what that example looks like. On an external basis, I tell you what, if you're not sharing the rules of your engagement, you can find yourself almost in panic mode and you're trying to follow all the different clients' rules of how they communicate. If you communicate consistently, every client, when you onboard them, what the communication rules are, you're going to find your life gets easier over time. I just met somebody that does design for houses, and she has clients that are always texting her after 5 p.m. And it's common for her because that's when the clients are getting home and seeing the progress on the design project, and that's when they're talking. She was losing her life though, because now her personal life, she would work all day, get home, and then her personal life would look so different because text after text after text. She started applying these rules about when people reach out, how they reach out, and now she's definitely seeing her kids a lot more. So know your rules, communicate your rules, and you're going to see a lot of change for the future. I always love this quote: don't make a mistake. Don't make the mistake of movement for achievement. It's easy to get faked out by being busy. And the question is like, busy doing what, right? So don't make that mistake. It's so common. We've either done it or we've seen others do it in the office, and it's like they're so busy. But then when you look at the output, it's like, oh, maybe not much important stuff was completed. It's just, gosh, they're busy. So you got to really be knowledgeable around what you're trying to complete.
Hey, Dan.
I'm coming to my close here. Yep.
I was just going to say, so we had a question come in about how do you tell your permissions or your rules or your non-negotiables without being strict or too, as Danielle said here, without being a meanie? How do you communicate those?
Okay. Yes. Yeah, Danielle just thanked you. How did she do it without being a meanie? Okay, so it's really, really hard, but it's definitely doable to do it with an already existing client that you're having the issue with. And that's going to require more having a bit of a partnering meeting, sitting down, going like, hey, how's everything going so far for our work together? Is there anything that we should be changing for the future? So that way you get their feedback before you share your feedback. And then at that point, it seems like they were more included on the conversation. And when you share the time needs, it's more of, I want to share with you communication rules that I work with all my clients that I forgot to share up front with you. And the purpose of these is to really ensure that you're going to get the most from me. Because if you're using text or email or phone during times I don't use that stuff, you're not going to get the proper communication from me. So I just wanted to talk through that. So at that point, you can talk through it. They now understand. And it was an inclusive meeting where they also got to offer their feedback on how things are going. Danielle, does that answer a bit of the question on an already existing client? Perfect. So the other thing is now just imagine that you share these communication roles up front before you even kick off all your engagements with them. It's not as hard. You aren't going to come off a meeting. You just actually are just doing an onboarding meeting, and now they're like, oh, that's how it works here. So it's way easier when you start doing all your future clients with communication rules. And I strongly recommend doing it written and verbal so that you can actually like show them, talk through it together, and any other expectations you typically have with your clients. Good question. So at the end of the day, you really want to just make sure you're measuring your value. How much are you worth per hour if you're making $150,000 a year? How much time do you want to put into your business in a year? So this slide, at the end of the day, if you actually read through it and go what like number of weeks, number of hours, what that equates to, it really just shows what's your value of time, right? And so when you look at folks that have gotten to the point where they're making millions of dollars, it doesn't mean that they're working 1 million hours a week. Sometimes they're working 48 hours a week and still making you know, 100 to 200 to 300 to eventually $1,000 per hour. There's people out there that have figured out how to leverage and be really good with their time and make a ton of money. So at the end of the day, just be really knowledgeable of how much time am I putting in the weeks, and how many weeks is that over? How many hours is that divided out over what I'm getting paid in a year? What's the value of my time? And if it's not where you want it to be yet per hour, make some decisions around being more effective, but it does start with you. So here's your example. Earning $1 million over a year at 48 weeks at 40 hours, that's 1,920 hours. That person's making $520 an hour. So if you do or eventually are going to own a business and you think about like, how do I be a millionaire in my time? You got to be great, right? So I think we all want to be in that position at some point, right? 6 basic steps to follow. Here's what I'm going to do. One thing I told Cassie before we started, I said, I'm going to include a lot of slides that I know we're not going to get fully through, but that way when you guys respond and if you want to get this PowerPoint, it'll be sent out and you're going to get all the follow-up slides before we have Cassie close out and do any Q&A. But I'm going to walk you through these 6 basic steps, and then you're going to see me breeze through some tools and not talk about them. Those tools we're going to have too in case you want to have them. So when it comes to time management, first, you need to break down what are you doing right now on a week-to-week basis and be factual. Don't put feelings into it. Sit down, take a week or two, analyze your time. How much are you truly sleeping? How much are you working, eating, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, really look at like, how much time am I truly working? How much am I sleeping? How much am I actually doing just other stuff, right? Many times you're going to find that there's this time gap in there of like, what am I doing with my time, right? And so, but we also feel like we don't have enough time. I really encourage this right here is going to make sure you fully know what you're doing with your time before you take action on the future. So the next thing you want to do is go, okay, now that I know how I'm spending my time, because time is money, I want to make sure I start setting boundaries. So whether it is I want to work no more than 50 hours a week, I got to figure out how to be effective in that time, set that ground rule. So set your hours of operation before you start to actually schedule it out. And then the next thing is time blocking and scheduling. So who here does block scheduling? Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, if you talk to Michael and Sabrina here, I'm sure they'll share what it used to be like before they started block scheduling and now what it feels like block scheduling. But really, I'll just give you this tip here. Once you know how much time you truly are spending on all the different things in your work, you now know I spend 12 hours a week on business development, generating leads. I spend 5 hours a week on internal meetings. I spend whatever it is, like figure out where you're spending your time and how much you do really need in the week. Now create block schedules around building the week how you want it to look. I would love to spend 5 hours in this and not be shuffled around in between different styles of meetings or different things. I want to stay in this mode. Then I want to move to this mode. Build it ideally how you'd like to schedule where you do have control, right? And then what I do to do that is actually if you have Google Calendar, for example, you know how you can make different calendars, make a different calendar called a ghost calendar or a block schedule. And all you're doing is creating the blocks, right? Internal meetings block, sales block, whatever it is, build out the ghost block. And then when you click back to your regular schedule, you can see where everything sits now versus how you want to look in the future. The point of this is so that as you start to schedule clients or things to do, you start to put them into what your calendar ideally should look like. It allows you to stay in the modes that you'd like. And that will allow your to-do list to filter into where it should be and start scheduling for the future the right way. The other thing is just know your options. So learn to say no where it can be said no. Find areas to delegate to others and look for opportunities where you can leverage and maybe do 2 things at once. I'll tell you what, anytime I ever have drive time or train time, because I take the train down to Chicago all the time, leverages, I have so many meetings and calls scheduled during that time. That's my leverage. So what are your leverage points where you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone or make sure that you are getting the most out of what you're doing in that moment? And just make sure you plan ahead with priority management. So you're going to see priority management, there's many things here as far as tools around A, B, C, D, and I know many of you have seen this. What I'll do is I'm going to share with you the tool as far as like how to plan out your year, what's your year-end goals, what is your month goal, what is your weekly goals, so you can start to put all the tasks and quadrant them out with time, the ideal day. So if you haven't done priority management, I'll definitely look forward to any Q&A that you have around this, but I'm going to make sure I wrap up and respect the time that Cassie shared here today. But just remember the power of slowing down to plan before you do. So Abraham Lincoln, if he had 6 hours to chop down a tree, he shared that he'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. And that's just, it's the same thing here. Like the better you focus on getting great and sharpening the axe of time management and just continue to whittle it down, you're going to see that you're just more and more and more effective with your time. And if you get that 5% more out of each day, don't forget what that equates to at the end of the year. You just have to make the intention and the focus behind it. So next steps is, if you have anything here that you do want to apply, make sure that you put it in your schedule. So if you leave here today and you didn't put it in your schedule that you're going to make a difference and actually sit down and plan and schedule and work on some of these tools, it won't happen. So make sure you pull out your planner right now and actually put a time block later this week or next week of working on time management. And then maybe it includes you pulling out this PowerPoint, whatever it may be, but wherever you're going to put some intention, you got to put it in the schedule. So, and if you don't have at least a half hour to 1 hour block on every Monday morning before you kick off the week to plan the week, you're probably a little reactive in your week. So make sure that you put a time block for that as well. Cassie, I'm going to send it back over to you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. So one of the most valuable things that I learned through this was boomerang, and that's something that I have implemented since, I would say, October, and it's made a real difference in terms of my follow-up and my email communication. So thanks so much for that content. That was super insightful. Thank you guys for attending and also participating in today's webinars. So Dan, could you go to the next slide about the texting? So for a copy of this content and also to receive our information, please pull out your cell phones and you can text TIME 2018 to 44222. And we will send you not only a copy of these slides today, but also some of the tools that we built internally in terms of helping you navigate block scheduling and also time and priority management. So a lot of our clients have found those super valuable, and we hope you would too. And then if you joined today, look for an announcement of our next webinar on Tuesday, February 20th at 1 p.m. Central. And that one will be on centers around leadership skills for scaling. And we'll be featuring another person within our team. His name is Vince Carone, and he's the Vice President of Training internally and also external training. So have a great afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us.